let's get into tactical now and then bring you what is now the best game ever with regards to modern football. It's Internazionale versus Barcelona. The second leg happened yesterday. Everybody was expecting it to be a draw, a dry draw, but it was just for us to hold something. Now, let's get into it. Now, in possession, there was something that Inter did that was really good. As much as possible, they created a situation where constantly the two center-backs were isolated with their two forwards. In this case, Lautaro Martinez, and then the number 9 man who came under so much criticisms and so much social media issues prior to the game. So once Inter isolated this particular situation, certainly you can't tell me the center-backs who started for Barcelona on the day can stand toe-to-toe with these two gentlemen. And constantly, in the first leg, this was not a different situation. In the first leg, it also happened. However, the man who played in this particular right-back situation was Koundé. Koundé now came back because Lamar came... He just occupied everyone up front. So he came back and assisted and constantly made it a situation where they were outnumbering the Inter attackers. However, in this situation, constantly in possession, you'd see such things happening all over. And it led to not one, but a lot of the goals. Now, let's move it on and get to other things and check out what happened when they were not in possession. Now, out of possession, most of the time, they did not allow, Barcelona to get into the rest defense. I know you're confused about that, but much later I'll come back and we'll identify some terminologies with the rest defense. And with that particular one, since they did not allow them to get into that, they constantly jumped onto them anytime they had the ball. And, they constantly made it in such a way that opponents were confused. So Barcelona they were constantly confused. They were moving at them as if they had the ball. However, they constantly made it in such a way. Now, this is one sequence that led to the goal. So here is Dani Olmo. He is having the ball. However, the counter press from 3 players constantly in this situation forces him to lose the ball. Now, it creates no time for this rest defense here to adjust and try to defend this counter situation that's about to just ignite from him losing the ball. Let's get into more situations. So now the ball has been lost. Now there is a lot of options across the front 3. Possibly just call it, if you want to call this a man marking, does this even work? Because there are 2 defenders in no man's land. There's a third here who is much closer to this attacker than even this particular player here. So it was really, really interesting in that sequence. Now let's move it on and get into this particular one. So this is one of the sequences that led to the goals. So actually, this is what led to the opening goal. Now look at Denzel Dumfries. This is the right wing back. So Inter created a situation where they shifted the pitch. They understood that Barcelona were going to attack constantly with the man, the 17-year-old boy who has a look-alike in Ghana. That very man, Lamine Yamal. And they noticed that they had to double up there. So they shifted and tilted the situation, making sure that their right wing back, had so much importance in the game and he had so much room to run up the field. This is one of such sequence. Now look at the attacker. The attacker is even offside. Marcus Thuram is offside in this situation, but he gets the opportunity to move the ball into the feet of Dumfries, and we know the resultant situation that happened from this particular sequence of play. Now, look at where gentleman is lurking. You don't lurk here. Originally, you are supposed to be back here. At least not so close to your attacker who is losing the ball. And for almost losing the ball, we'll talk about it much later. But for Frankie de Jong, he was again superb on the day. Now, let's move it on. A lot of people kept saying that crosses were not being defended and stuff. But what happened here? How do you defend like this? As a defender, you are supposed to be between the ball and the player or attacker, not the other way around, where you are rather behind the player. Any slight touch will be considered a penalty because you try to go through the defender to reach the ball, which is not so. Now, let's get into other sequences here. So now this is another example of the whole sequence where Barcelona kept on exposing their defense, allowing Internacional to capitalize on them. But let's get to Barcelona and also check out what they did good. Now, in possession, they made sure that they constantly also, as much as possible, isolated two players. Yes, but in this case, constantly, Internacional pushed a lot of players forward when they were attacking. So anytime Barcelona broke with the ball and had the opportunity to also press them, they created a situation as much as possible, 3-on-3. And we know that Barca, their attackers are really quick. In fact, a lot more quicker and more athletic than the Internacional defense. Because let's face it, one of the center backs for Internacional is 37-year-old Asebi. He has played 20 seasons. How old is Yamal? How old is Yamal? Yes, he has been playing football for 20 seasons, professional football. You don't do that. Anyways, let's get into more issues with regards to Barcelona in possession. So they as much as tried to create a defensive overload. When they lost the ball, they tried to create a lot of defensive overload situations to make it difficult for Internacional to play through. However, to remedy this particular situation, Inter also came up with a different way of playing out from the back, allowing the man himself, Di Marco, to do a lot of work. Yeah, fantastic. But it also provided huge attacking threats for the team Barcelona in that sequence. Now let's check out another sequence here, which actually led to some interesting fashion. See the man, Pedri, who on the day a lot of fans from Barcelona would have expected much more from him, but he did not really, in the first leg of the game as well, he did not actually pull his weight that much. But we'll see about that. Now, this is, at least it led to something meaningful. They tried as much as possible to also use the the Internacional formula against them. Internacional in this particular game went harder with the man-to-man marking. In the first game, it was a little bit shadow man-to-man, but this time they were bang on it, man-to-man throughout. And in this case, they also tried as much as possible, and this particular sequence also leading to a goal for the team Barcelona. But how they could not keep the lead and eventually create a situation where Jan Sommer became fantastic on the night is one that we would love to see.